Basic Brewing Radio is sponsored in part by the American Homebrewers Association. Join the American Homebrewers Association in November and claim an out-of-this-world offer. Use discount code 5STAR to receive a free 32-ounce bottle of IO Star sanitizer when you purchase a one-year membership. Get your free IO Star with promo code 5STAR, that's all one word, and find holiday inspiration for great gifts, craft beer recipes, beer and food pairing suggestions, and much more by visiting homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing today. Hurry, this offer won't last. Visit homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing for offer details. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, November 9th, 2023. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Haven Schultz from the Bru Club joins me to talk about his organization and to participate in a round of Mash Your Luck. We'll randomly select recipe parameters and challenge Bru Club members to design a delicious recipe that fits within them. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Financial supporters will have already seen the video episode that I'm going to post on Friday. It's the one about the delicious porter that I brewed, and Chris Colby and I worked together on this show to design. That beer is officially all gone. I gave it to Steve Wilkes' son's wedding reception. Must have been popular because there's nothing left. It's a great time of year for a porter, for sure. It's also a great time of the year for my Kentucky Common, which is now on tap here at the house in the kegerator. Josh Secor from Gambit Brewing Company up in St. Paul, Minnesota, wrote and said he's been brewing a Kentucky Common commercially at Gambit for a few years now, called Backwoods Lullaby. He sent a picture of his, and the color is very close to mine. He says that the recipe that Matt Giovanisi of Brew Cabinet and I came up with is very close to his as well. Well, we're planning to send each other our Kentucky Common versions and taste them on the show, maybe the next time that Matt and I get together, and maybe Josh can help us formulate the next recipe as well. Well, after hearing Chris Colby and me formulate a recipe for pre-Prohibition American lager, or classic American Pilsner, I heard from our friend, author Peter Simons, who wrote an article in the March-April issue of Zymergy, coincidentally, titled Recreating the Past, Discovering the Beers of Early 20th Century America. In that article, Peter had several recipes for historic beers, including one for 1904 Standard American Lager. That one, Chris and I used a mixture of 2-row and 6-row in that recipe. Well, this recipe from Peter uses Vienna malt, flaked rice, like we did, and cluster hops. If you're a member of the AHA, you can find that article online, I believe. But we may want to have Peter on the show when Chris and I taste the beer that I brewed. Peter's on the other side of the globe, so he'll have to take our word on whether the beer turned out well or not. I predict it'll be delicious. I've already got the ingredients for that beer, and like I said, it's also called a classic American Pilsner. I got those ingredients from our friends and sponsors Desiree and Dave of HighGravityBrew.com, and later this week, I need to order ingredients for the next round of the Hop Sampler because Steve and I recorded one of those this week as well. It's so easy to order ingredients from HighGravityBrew.com. With that CAP beer, I used the Build Your Own Beer page on HighGravityBrew.com. Super easy. You essentially create a bundle for each recipe so that you can have the grains all milled together in one bag, or you can choose to mill them yourself. Lots of shipping options as well. For the Hop Sampler beers, I go a la carte from HighGravityBrew.com because it's generally just 3 1-pound bags of extract and some hops and yeast. And if I ever have a question about an order or an item, they're easy to get a hold of. In fact, you can probably chat with Desiree or Dave right there on the site. And while you're on HighGravityBrew.com, Be sure to check out all the Warthog electric systems and controllers designed to take the pain out of propane. If you use the code EBC75BB, you can save $75 off your Warthog purchase. Desiree and Dave have been good friends and supporters for many years. Show them some love and appreciation by going to family-owned and operated HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. Hey, while I'm thinking about it, don't forget to send in your disaster show stories. The end of the year is very quickly approaching. Steve and I have an idea for something special to share with disaster show participants and our financial supporters. No spoilers, but send in your stories of brewing gone wrong to james@basicbrewing.com. Before you forget about it, like I do. Okay, Haven Schultz heard Adam Ross and me on the first go-round of Mash Your Luck and thought it sounded like a fun way to challenge members of the Bru Club, which is associated with the Brulosophy folks, of course. How will Lady Luck treat the Bru Club members? We'll have a listen. Haven Schultz, welcome to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks for having me, James.
Now, you are associated with a certain club. What club are you associated with?
So I am a part of the leadership team for the Bru Club. We are associated with Brulosophy. I think most homebrewers are familiar with them. And this is kind of the second coming of the club, and we've built it into quite a beast for an online homebrew club.
People might think they're on the wrong channel or something. But this is not Brulosophy, but we have had the Brulosophy guys on in the past, and they're always welcome to come back. It's a great channel. It's a great blog, and I'm assuming it's a great homebrew club as well.
I sure think so.
Now, let's get into, before we talk about the club and before we have this specific task at hand, tell us about yourself, Haven. How long have you been homebrewing, and how did you get the bug? How did you get into it?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in high school and then starting out college, I was working in a lot of restaurants around the area, and one of my coworkers and his dad were brewing. I knew about beer. I didn't really care all that much at that point. But he shared a couple of his homebrew, just basic, blank brown bottles with me. And it was kind of fascinating. He was talking about the process and how it kind of related to what I did with cooking. So without really caring about craft beer too much, I dove in. Contrary to a lot of homebrewing origin stories, I bought myself a kit instead of someone gifting me one for a holiday or birthday. And I just kind of dove headfirst into it. I went to 1 gallon all grain kits on my stovetop, kind of on and off for the first 3 years. I didn't do a ton of brewing in those first 3 years, but I think like most new home brewers, everything was an ingredient for beer. So not a lot of them turned out well, especially when you throw like full caramel apples into a beer and just hope that it works out. It really doesn't. Once I finished my undergrad degree, I kind of figured it was about time to, dive into this hobby a little bit more. I felt comfortable with it and I really enjoyed what I was doing. I certainly enjoyed craft beer a lot more at that point. Dove into it and kind of went back to the basics, not only the how of what to do, but why am I doing it too? And I'd say that's kind of the point where I'm still at today. About 9 years later, I upped my batch size from 1 gallon to 5, I think, which is standard for most homebrewers. Kegging, water chemistry, all the basics that come along with formulating better beer that you actually want to drink. That's kind of where I'm at now. I recently moved off of my stockpot propane system about a year ago. I moved into with the help of my father-in-law, we built out our basement into a kind of my dream brewing space. Nice. Where I can go from raw material to a finished kegged and pouring beer in the same room, which is really nice. Don't have to lug equipment up the stairs or water outside or brew in the negative 40-degree Wisconsin winters. I think that's kind of nice. So I get to stay inside nice and warm. And my wife loves it too because it keeps all of my equipment out of her shower when I have to clean it all on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I think it works out for everybody. Only I have to deal with it now. So
So you're not doing like Bob Stemsky up there in Wisconsin used to do and brew out on a frozen lake somewhere.
Oh geez, no. Brewing in my cold garage every first snowfall of the year, I'll always take off of work and brew an imperial stout. And yeah, it was always nice and cold outside trying to do that, trying to keep, 7 or 8 gallons of liquid boiling. So this this will be my first full winter inside, and I am certainly looking forward to it. Just a little bit more control.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So the this club, this Bru Club, give us a bit about the history of the club, and you shared some notes with me, and it sounds like this is kind of the second incarnation of the club.
Yep, correct. The club, I couldn't get a lot of history about the first kind of coming of the Bru Club. I wasn't involved with it in a leadership capacity at that time. From what I understand, it was formed kind of in the mid 2010s, just as an open forum and a place for Brulosophy fans to gather. It was started by Marshall and the contributors over at Brulosophy at the time. Like I said, just a place for them to gather and talk about the Brulosophy content that they were putting out, the experiments, their own brewing and experiments that brewers are doing in their home brewery. Shortly after it was formed, a group of fans, just like ourselves nowadays, kind of took over the club and in a leadership capacity. As you can imagine, running a podcast and website, Brulosophy's production schedule was quite hectic, so they just didn't have the time to put into keeping this club to what it should be. So a few members took over in a leadership capacity, and honestly, I don't have a ton of information about what they did. One big thing that we can talk about a little bit more in depth later is they formed the Bru Club Experiment Series, where members of the club can conduct and publish their own Brulosophy style experiment on the website for Brulosophy readers to digest and talk about. And I think that's really cool. We get a little bit of insight of what those contributors do on a weekly basis. So we still have that around. Other than that, I don't really know a whole ton of what they did back then.
Well, that's got to be a huge resource for Marshall and everybody working, on the Brulosophy team, because, doing just a weekly audio podcast, I can tell you that coming up with material every week is I call it the yawning chasm of content. So having a big team behind you to come up with experiments and do the experiments and write them up, and that's got to be just an incredible resource.
Oh, absolutely. And Marshall has a great contributor team too that's putting out the content and helping them with podcasting and stuff like that. But being able to have one of them take a week off while the Bru Club puts out an experiment, I think really benefits them. And I think it's a little easier now with the Brulosophy Show, their YouTube channel, kind of in full swing with Martin Keene taking over a day a week, publishing some of that. But yeah, it's still a lot of fun to get those. There's still pretty strict guidelines around those experiments, but not as strict as contributors have to follow. So it's a little bit more lenient for us, just normal brewers on the side of it. So yeah, good benefit for them.
So how do y'all get together?
So that's kind of where the second iteration of the Bru Club comes in. COVID kind of shut down that first iteration, shifted priorities for, I think, all of us in life. And it wasn't until late 2021 where Marshall kind of was ready to reform the Bru Club, bring it back to its former glory, so to speak, and see where it can go. He recruited a couple members just as an open post, and I just happened to respond to that along with a few other gentlemen. And we kind of took off from there. We were given very, very loose expectations of what they wanted for the club and kind of gave us free rein after that. From there, we kind of based the Bru Club around 3 specific activities, and one big one is monthly meetings. So we do monthly meetings virtually. We do it over Microsoft Teams currently, and we have a Teams account between the club. We started right away in November of 2021, and we haven't missed a month yet. So we're about 2 years in, which has been fantastic. The meetings are typically centered around some club business, any announcements that we have, kind of talk through anything relating to the club, and usually feature a guest in the homebrewing or brewing industry, I suppose. These guys, we've had a gamut of guests that have just been incredible. John Palmer, your friend Chris Colby has been on a couple times. Those meetings always seem to get off the rails a little bit. I'm sure you can, you know what I'm talking about. Chris can certainly get into some deep rabbit holes and really talk about some cool topics. So he's a lot of fun. We always like talking about his love of brown ales and seltzers. So shout out to Chris for those. Um, Brian Perky are, people we've had Imperial Yeast reps come on. Alex Gruber, I know you've talked with him in the past.
Mhm.
We got really nerdy with him one night about how hybridization of yeast of an asexual organism happens, how they're able to breed asexual organisms, which is just crazy. And I think he was just loving talking about that because people actually cared to talk about that. So that was a ton of fun. A lot of different homebrew guests too. Most of the Brulosophy contributors have been on or are planned to be on in the future. So that'll be really fun. So yeah, those guests just come on, do an educational presentation, talk about themselves a little bit, maybe do a Q&A or just a blend of whatever they really want to do. We kind of leave it up to them.
And we're going to do a mash your luck experiment here today with the permission of Adam Ross, the co-founder of Mash Your Luck. We can talk about that in a second. But you also kind of do a quarterly recipe collaboration that's sort of similar to what Adam and I did on the show the other day with the Mash Your Luck.
Yeah, that's actually where this idea and myself and you talking right now kind of came from. Right off the bat, when we formed the Bru Club, kind of the second iteration of it, we wanted to do a recipe collaboration. But being an online club, we figured it'd be kind of dumb to put out a recipe and tell everyone to brew it and call it a day. No one would participate. There's nothing in it for in an in-person club. You can do that and everyone tastes the beers and see how different they are on different systems and such, but that's just not how it works with online clubs. We came up with the idea of picking a style, BJCP or not, and kind of voting on every single aspect of that beer, recipe, ingredients, vital stats, brewing processes, everything that kind of goes into that recipe. We'll collect data for a little bit over a month, or a little bit right around a month. And once we have all that data collected, we'll put together, the leadership team and I will put together a guideline for that style, kind of picking the top one or two answers from each category and saying these are required ingredients, these are optional ingredients. We kind of just collaborate amongst ourselves to put together this guideline, and then release it to the club. This guideline is a very rough outline of what should be brewed, but it leaves the specific recipe up to the brewer, and to all the brewers that are participating. So we're brewing the same style, but we're brewing it. Every recipe is a little bit different. We all kind of feed off each other and bounce our ideas off of each other. But in the end, we make such different beers. It's unbelievable. I've had the pleasure of trying numerous average brew beers from different members of the club. I suppose I should have mentioned Average Brew is what we call the recipe collaboration series. With that, we do a quarterly Brulosophy podcast where we also send the beers to Marshall and his esteemed beer reviewer friends, who then taste it on the podcast. And we've had so far 6 episodes, the 7th one coming soon for Alt Beer, which is our last recipe. And I don't think once they've said that these beers all taste similar. I think they're just as shocked at how different these beers are.
Nice. So you guys use democracy and collaboration to come up with the guidelines, and we're just going to throw our fates to the wind this evening. So
yeah, that is quite all right with me.
Now I have a devil's advocate question here. I'll put on my Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes hat. When many years ago, when online brew clubs first started popping up, I was. My knee-jerk reaction was to be skeptical, if not slightly against them. And my perception was, or my fear was, that, if the online clubs got too popular, they would be siphoning off members from the, sort of traditional terrestrial, homebrew clubs, that people could be, going to the meetings at their local homebrew club, and maybe if they were a member of another club at the same time, maybe there was a chance that they would lose interest in in their local club and in favor of going to some international online organization. So are my fears justified? Are you siphoning members away from local homebrew clubs?
I believe I can confidently say we are absolutely not doing that. We knew from day one we would not compete with the in-person aspect of homebrew clubs. The collaborative brewing, getting to try all of our beers all at once, sit around a table and talk about things. I knew we weren't going to replace that. We had to work a little bit more creatively with a lot of the things we do, but that in-person aspect will not be replicated in an online club. Where I think online clubs benefit a lot of people, and I kind of fit that person that would really benefit from an online club at the beginning of my journey with the Bru Club. Young parents. I'm a young parent. I have a 2.5-year-old at home. They can't get out a lot for an in-person club. If there's a meeting, especially on a weekday, it's kind of tough to get out of the house and arrange a schedule around that. We offer the ability to sit in the comfort of your own home, take the time that you want to contribute to the club and chat with us, whether that be on Facebook, on Discord. We have an Instagram account that we just kind of post news, but you can interact there. So we kind of give that we try to keep that interaction centered around beer and home brewing, but from the comfort of your own home. Another benefit is at the beginning of my tenure with the Bru Club, I didn't have an in-person club around me. I had nothing. I barely knew any local brewers other than my pro brewer friends that I chat with. So that was tough too. If I want to bounce ideas off of somebody, I didn't really care for the idea of throwing out my question on a random home brewing page and getting random responses of, I don't know who those brewers are. I certainly trust them. They probably brew great beer, but I don't know that. So I think we fit those two categories really well. We actually, as luck would have it, we just conducted a membership survey for the Bru Club and found that 48% of our members that answered the survey, this is their only homebrew club. They're attached to this one. Either they don't want to brew or join an in-person club for whatever reason. They don't have access to an in-person club. It's too far away, or their in-person club just never made it back from COVID. And that's a sad story we've heard many, many times. That killed a lot of kind of in-person activities, and some just didn't come back from that. So which kind of sucks. 15% of our respondents, the Bru Club is their main club. But they have an in-person club that they also visit. That's myself as well now. I'm part of my in-person club here in central Wisconsin. But of course, being associated with the Bru Club, this is certainly my main club and who I compete under and who I really stake claim as that main club for myself. And then a lot of our respondents, the rest of them were the Bru Club is their side club. We're totally fine being your side club, having a community that you can chat with at home, bounce ideas off of while you're home, and still participate in your online or your in-person club more. That's totally fine with us. We're an accepting community. We want everybody the more the merrier. The more ideas we can toss everyone's way, the more everyone's going to learn and kind of grow from that.
Well, there you go. I think you've answered my concerns. I mean, to avoid being a hypocrite, there are two very good, at least two good homebrew clubs here in Northwest Arkansas, and I don't go. I'm not a joiner, number one, and then it's the aspect of I live like at least 30 minutes away from where they would be meeting, if not more like an hour away. And, I don't want to drive after I've been drinking anyway. And Susan doesn't want to come with me to homebrew club meetings. So, so there's some safety aspects as well. So, at the risk of being seen as a hypocrite, I'm not a member of any clubs, even though there are a couple of good ones, right near me. So, it's nice to have options, though.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
Well, anything else that you want to say about the club before we get into our challenge this evening?
Um, I guess I'll just mention a couple of other things that we do. Like I said, the Bru Club Experiment Series. You can work. Two of our leadership members, Will Lovell and Alex Shanks Abel, are Brulosophy contributors. So that if you want to do your own experiment, they'll work with you to kind of come up with, if you need an idea, how to do it, how to document, and how to get it published on the website. We've actually had an amazing sponsor with Delta Brewing Systems, sending out fermenters to some of the people who participate in this Bru Club Experiment Series. If you get voted the fan favorite article of the year, so if you're
Wow.
cool experiment, we'll send you a fermenter right to your door free of charge. Kind of crazy that we have that level of sponsorship that we do. So huge shout out to Delta Brewing Systems on that. Outside of that, we do a lot of different little things, giveaways from a lot of our sponsors, charity drives. We just did one recently where we raised a good bit of money for a lot of beer-related charities, which is really cool. We do a lot of merch, coordinated beer swaps, beer trades. We compete as a group a lot of times. We're got a really core group of brewers that are good at. I shouldn't say good. We're very into competitions and getting feedback like that, and we're closely associated with the Master Homebrew program, so we're tied in pretty good with those guys. It's a lot of fun to compete together, share our feedback, and really just iterate and get better. So it's a great community. If anyone's looking to join, James, I'm sure I'll share the links with you, and you can post those in the show notes. It's fantastic, and we'd welcome you with open arms. We pride ourselves on being the best group of homebrewers on the internet you're going to find. There is no hate. There is no negativity. There is no putting people down for their ideas. Whether you've brewed for 10 years, 20 years, and you're a very seasoned veteran at what you're doing, or you haven't brewed a batch yet, and you want to throw onions and mushrooms into a brown ale, we're not going to dog you for that. We are going to help you figure out how to do it. And hell, send me a bottle when you're done. I'll be curious to try it. No matter how much I think the idea is kind of weird, we're gonna help you. We're gonna help you figure that out. So I think just inadvertently we've become one of the more supportive groups out there.
Yeah, Chris Colby would have feedback on your brown ale, but he's not a member of the club, so he's.
I'll make sure to send him a bottle.
Yeah, he might break some rules of your club as far as being nice to people.
He's quite a character. We've gotten into it with him a couple of times on our meetings and gone down some pretty funny paths about philosophy and gardening to his just hate of brown ales for some reason. I don't know what they ever did to him, but that's for another time.
So what's the best way to connect with the Bru Club?
We do have a Facebook page. That's kind of the easiest way to connect with us, get involved. We share a lot of news on there. Our Discord server is much more active in just day-to-day conversation than the Facebook page. There's a lot of good stuff going on the Facebook page for sure. But Discord is kind of number one on that. And if you're interested in just kind of seeing the news and lurking behind the scenes for a little bit, we do have an Instagram as well that we keep updated with all of the club happenings and such.
Excellent. And that's BRU Club as in Brulosophy.
Correct. And that U does have the umlaut on it too. Oh. So you'll have to, I don't think you have to type that in a lot of the socials to find it, but just in case.
I had one more packet left of the seasonal yeast L26 Pilgrimage from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast. So I dusted off my stir plate and made a 2-liter starter with it. Well, as you probably would predict, that was a short fermentation. But now that starter is in the kegerator, and I'm going to use it to brew my classic American Pilsner. I'm going to be a good boy this time and follow the rules for lager brewing, making a healthy starter, pitching at proper temperature, aerating the wort with oxygen in an air stone, and doing a diacetyl rest, warming things up when the fermentation slows. I've already used Pilgrimage for my smoked rot beer and my Kentucky Common. Both of those turned out delicious, even though the Kentucky Common was pitched warmer than is recommended. Still turned out great. At least I think so. You'll have until the rest of the month to get your hands on the seasonal strain, L26 Pilgrimage. Get yourself some cleanly fermented, delicious lager on tap for the holidays. Ask your local homebrew store about the L26 Pilgrimage from Imperial Yeast, and check them out, as always, at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com. So are you ready? Are you ready to mash your luck?
Let's do it.
I need a theme song. We got a sound effect for the randomization, the spinning. So Adam Ross and I kind of came up with this concept. He came up with the concept. I came up with the name. Adam Ross of Twinspan Brewing. So what we have here is 5 categories, and they are ABV, bitterness, color, type, and origin. And each one of those categories has characteristics under them. For instance, I'll just say ABV has very low, low, medium, high, and very high. And what we do is I have a little random number generator here on my phone, and we will let the fates decide which characteristic that will be under that category. And then at the end, after we've picked all of the 5, we have a joker. in which you can choose to re-roll one of the categories. So, does that make sense? Is that the way? Did I get it right, Haven? Is it?
I certainly think so. I'm nervous to pick a joker if I do choose to pick one, because I think the club will give me some hell for it either way. So I'll be curious.
And this is only the second time we've done this, so it may be catastrophic. I don't know.
We'll find out.
So the challenge is to brew a beer with those characteristics that we come up with, and this is really interesting because we're not trying to hit a style. There could be, a ton, depending on the characteristics that we come up with, there could be a ton of different styles and interpretations to come out of this. So, your members could come up with, a whole bunch of different interpretations or different styles of beer, or they might make up some of their own. Who knows what may happen. So I'm very excited about this.
Absolutely, myself as well.
Okay. Are you ready for the first category? The first category is ABV. And again, it's number 1 would be very low, 2 low, 3 medium, 4 high, and 5 very high. I've got the random number generator here in front of me, and here we go. We have number 3. So medium ABV. So I'm gonna write this down so I don't forget.
I am doing the same.
Okay. So medium ABV. So that's pretty. You're in good shape, I think, right now.
Yeah, starting out on a good foot.
I think that this is. Well, it's the middle of the road. Obviously, it's harder to go very low or very high. So I think you're in good shape so far.
Yeah, I like that. What would we consider medium? Like 5 to 6, 4 to 6?
Again, that's kind of up to interpretation.
Okay.
Maybe if people are used to brewing 12% barley wines, maybe 7 is medium. It might depend on the brewer. I don't know. You might have to write an essay along with your entry to to justify your characteristics.
We can have the members do that. That's all right.
Okay. Now, bitterness. Number 1 would be low. Number 2 is low to mid. Number 3 is balanced. Number 4 is high. And number 5 is very high. And the way we interpreted this with Adam's beer was that it's a relative thing. For instance, you wouldn't want 100 ABV or 100 IBUs in a 2% ABV beer. That'd be ridiculous. So something like 40 or 50 IBUs in a 2% beer would be very high. See what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So here we go. This is for bitterness. Oh, what are you rooting for, Haven?
I guess middle. I don't know.
It's number 2, low to mid. Low
All
to
right.
mid bitterness. So far we've got a medium ABV, low to mid bitterness beer. So
All right.
pretty easy, I think, so far.
I would think so. We might have to shake this up a little bit with a joker if it's too easy.
Okay, color. Number 1, Adam came up with these. Number 1 is pale. Number 2 is gold. Number 3 is amber. Number 4 is brown, and number 5 is black. So those make sense to you, Haven?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Three. So this is an amber beer.
Amber. All right. I think these next two categories are really going to decide where we use that joker.
Okay, so now I've got to change my parameters here. Now, okay, Adam, because he's a commercial brewer and he had to sell this beer. The two types that he had are lager and ale. I propose we add sour to that. What do you think?
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Is there another quote unquote type that you think would that we ought to add to that?
Not really. No, I think those kind of cover the three major types, really.
All right. Okay, here we go. 2. This is an ale. Boy, you guys are lucking out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow.
So far we have a medium ABV, low to mid bitterness, amber ale. Now the final category is origin. And Adam had U.S., Germany, and the U.K. I propose we add Belgium on there as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That'll give us a little bit more variety.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. So this is the final category, and here we go. It is Germany. Okay, so we have a medium ABV, low to mid bitterness, amber German ale. That's that sounds pretty doable.
Yeah, I mean, sounds like an alt beer right off the bat.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you want to try to make it harder in one of the categories maybe, or try something different in one of the categories? I'll leave it up to you since you're representing your club.
Oh gosh, I do, but I don't know which one to pick. I
mean, it sounds like a delicious beer, really, tell you the truth.
It does.
It sounds like a really good beer. And the plan is for hoping that people take part in this and then brew up a bunch of samples, and then for at a later date, you or your guys and gals send samples here to Northwest Arkansas, and then Steve and I taste them on the show. I don't know that we could taste all the samples. Like we're not tasting 50 beers on a show.
We'll send a few your way. We'll make sure to get a good selection of recipes. I would almost think. What do you think? I got 3 categories in mind that we could reshuffle.
Okay.
I think bitterness. If we're going to stick with amber and German, we could reshuffle bitterness. Maybe hope for a higher bitterness, maybe just to match the water profile in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
We could reshuffle color. How about a dark German ale is kind of strange. And we could reshuffle origin. I'm kind of thinking one of those 3.
I think it's good to stick with the ale. I think safe to stick with the ale.
Yep.
Medium ABV. I think that's probably a pretty good choice to stick with, just because it kind of leaves it open to more beers maybe out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you think? You want to shuffle? You want to reshuffle bitterness?
Let's do that. I think that'll be a good one.
Because you could get low.
We could.
That's the thing about the Joker.
Yeah, I guess. You know what? Let's do Origin. Let's
okay.
shake it up.
All right. Let me dial in the 4 here. Okay, number 1 is U.S., 2 is Germany, number 1 is U.S., 2 is Germany, 3 is UK, 4 is Belgium. Okay, and here we go. Now we're in the UK.
UK, really? All right. All right. That is not what I expected. I think we can make it work. That could be fun.
I think it sounds like a delicious beer. It sounds like it sounds pretty easy to do, really. We have a medium ABV, low to mid bitterness, amber English or UK ale. Like a mild? Would that be too high of an ABV?
You could do a mild if it was on the lighter side in color. You could do a kind of a bitter, a standard or a strong bitter even. Even like a lighter English porter. We got some options, or just go off the cuff and do an English IPA.
Mm-hmm.
We have options. We certainly have options.
Of course, it's maybe an English ale, like an amber, hoppy, but not too hoppy because the bitterness is low to mid. So maybe you couldn't go all the way into IPA territory. But I think there could be a lot of delicious beers out there with these characteristics.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, I think this will be interesting to see what people come up with.
Yeah. And so you'll have the details out in the future. You'll tell the Bru Club about this conversation. We're recording a couple of weeks before this show will come out. So maybe by the time I post this recipe or this episode, I'll be able to tell people where to go to find out the details. If not, then whenever the details come out, I'll keep people updated. I'm excited.
Yes. Myself as well. I think we coordinated a release date for the episode, so I think we'll keep the release date on our side consistent with that. We'll let everybody know tonight, of course, that the conversation took place and this is coming up, so people can get excited and ready. And I'm excited. I got some ideas. I got to toss around a couple of recipes in my mind tonight and see what we come up with.
And maybe, it's been a while since, Steve hasn't participated in any of these things. Maybe I can toss these parameters over to Steve. I haven't told him about this, but, maybe I can challenge him to brew a beer as well.
Hey, there we go. Absolutely.
This is right up his alley. These recipe parameters, that's right up his alley. He can do this in his sleep. Oh, well, Haven, anything else for the cause?
No, not at this time. Any homebrewers that are interested in kind of a good community of people to chat with, talk beer with, talk about food, barbecue, anything you want. Come check us out. Come hang out. We're gonna welcome you with open arms and probably send you some free stuff at some point too. So yeah, come hang out.
Well, awesome, Haven. This has been a lot of fun, and I really look forward to seeing what the club thinks and what they come up with for their recipes.
Absolutely, this was a blast, James. Thank you.
Well, thanks again to Haven. It's going to be really fun to see how Bru Club members respond. Haven and I were talking afterwards, and we forgot to talk about adjuncts and other ingredients. A medium ABV, low to mid bitterness amber UK ale would be perfect for, say, some chilies, maybe some fruit or spices for the holidays. Yum. If you have brewing questions, disaster show stories, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com, or just fill out the contact form at basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. So until next time, until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.